So good morning, friends. Today we'll continue on Spark. Those who are on WebEx, please confirm that you guys can see my screen. And also I will confirm from YouTube Live also, then we can actually start. Okay, thank you. Please. Okay. So today we'll be talking about, we'll be continuing on the word count program, which we have started yesterday. So yesterday, because we ran into some issue with respect to STS, what I have done is I actually demonstrated using Spark Shell. Okay, we will continue the same. I figured out where the issue is with respect to Maven. If you try to launch the Scala interpreter in the Maven projects, there is some issue in the integration of Maven with the Scala and then getting the Scala interpreter. I don't know the solution for that problem. So we cannot actually use Scala interpreter in Eclipse. But if you have Spark on your laptop, you can actually launch Spark saying Spark Shell. And again, I will reiterate the instructions how to set up Spark. You just go to, once you set up Scala, you just go to Google and say Spark download, and it will fetch you the latest versions of, it will actually give the link for Spark downloads, and we can download Spark 1.6.3. Don't download 2x because it's relatively new and it is not relevant for any of the certifications. There can be some significant differences. Okay, I'm sorry, I did not start the recording. Okay, so now I'm talking about how to set up Spark on your laptop, and then you can use Spark on your laptop also to write your programs. So in that process, I just Googled for Spark download, and you can either go to this link, and also you can actually click on this directly to take it to the version you are looking for. So here it is talking about Spark release 1.6.3, but it is not actually providing the link. Rather, you can click on download. Yeah, so once you click on download, it will show the releases. If you want to release if you want to download 1.6.3, you can choose that, and then choose the latest version of Hadoop. There is a dependency between Spark and Hadoop because Spark uses the HDFS APIs, and also it can be integrated with Yarn, which is part of Hadoop. So for that reason, you can choose Hadoop. With the latest version of Spark, you should always choose 2.x. You can safely choose the latest version unless your project demands some other version. Yeah. You don't need to change this. You can use direct download. Just click on this, and it will download the gzip tarball, and you can unzip and untar and put it in some location on your PC. Okay. Once you put it on some location on your PC, what you have to do is, let me close all these things, then I will explain. If you are using a Windows laptop, you have to go to environment variables and set the Spark home, and also you have to update path. Those two environment variables you have to update. Only then you will be able to launch Spark Shell from anywhere. Yes, you can have multiple versions of Spark, but in path you can only have one version. You can use only one version from any location. If you have multiple versions and if you want to trigger based on one version, you have to give fully qualified path of Spark Shell command. For example, now I have set up in my home directory. So this is my Spark Spark binaries, which is downloaded, untarred, and unzipped. Okay, then I set up in the profile. I'm reading from profile and grabbing it for Spark. Okay, so here I have set Spark home, which is completely new, and I am pointing to this location. What is this location? It is this one, which is nothing but soft link to this version. This is for my convenience of managing the upgrades. In future, if I want to use different version, I just download that, unlink, and relink this Spark to that new binaries, and automatically my environment is set to use that latest version by default. Okay, now if I have two versions, and if I have at any point in time, you can only have one Spark Home, and you can only add one to bin. You cannot have two. This is probably this was the accident that I have this Spark Home / bin two times. I will fix it later. You can at any point in time, you can only update path with one version of Spark. If you have two versions and if you want to use two things simultaneously, the default one you can run it from anywhere, but the non-default one you have to provide the fully qualified path. Okay, so if you go to the lab, so here I'm taking you to the lab because on lab I have two versions, so I can easily demonstrate how it will look like if you have multiple versions. So I'm logging into the lab here using Ambari. And here you can see there is a Spark 2 and also there is a Spark. Okay, we have two different versions. Now I'm logging into the lab. And instead of using root, I'm using my personal user ID which have account in the lab, which is D Gajraju. And here, if I run which Spark shell, it is showing this one. And if I ls ltr on this, okay, actually they have the copy of the Spark shell command. I think I can also say Spark shell and hit enter. It will give the version. Okay, yeah. Here, if you scroll up, it is using 1.6.2. So by default, it is configured to 1.6.2. Now, if I want to use Spark 2, okay, one way to figure out, probably environment variable might not be set. Let me figure out where my Spark shell for Spark 2 is located, and I have to give the fully qualified path of it. So I am logging in as root, and I'm searching from the root file system, which is slash. Slash is the root of the entire Linux file system. I'm searching by name, Spark shell, and hit enter. Now, wherever this Spark shell binary file is there, it will show the entire path, and we can figure it out from there. So now you can see there is one Spark shell for Spark, and there is another Spark shell for Spark 2. By default, I think as part of the setup, HTTP, what they have done, they have copied this into bin. Okay, you can see this is 2988, and what is the this is only 950 bytes. So from somewhere they might be picking, but it is pointing to 1.6.2. I will figure out how they are related a little bit later. But in this case, if you want to launch Spark shell with Spark 2, which is not configured as default, what we have to do, copy this one and paste it and hit enter. So as a non-root user, you will not be able to run find command like this. So don't attempt to run find command like this. You will get into so many access denied issues. If you want to run, try to run using this path, user HTTP 2.5.0.0 -1245 if you want to find any file. Okay, that one you will have access to. Now you can see Spark 2 is launched. So this is how, if you have multiple versions of Spark exists in if you have multiple versions of Spark on a cluster or on your PC, you have to give fully qualified path of your binary files to launch for a particular version. You can only set one as default. In the lab, we have 1.6.2 as default. So when we just run Spark shell, it will launch with 1.6.2. But if we give fully qualified path like this, it will launch with whatever version it is pointing to. So is it clear? Okay. So now I am coming out of this, and yeah, yesterday we are talking about the word count program, and now I am actually discussing about how to set up Spark. So once you download and unzip and untar to your location, you have to set your environment variables. One is you have to create a new environment variable by name Spark Home, just for your convenience purpose. The main thing is append the bin of that Spark version in to path. So your path should be updated. Only then you will be able to run Spark Shell from anywhere. That's why I'm able to run Spark Shell on my Mac also. Okay, and then we can launch it from there, and we can actually write the code snippets from here. As our Scala interpreter is not working on this. Yesterday when we try to select this project, right click on this and then go to Scala and create Scala interpreter in Scala demo. Oh, it worked now. But yeah, when we actually developed the program, it didn't work. If you recollect, when I try to create this conf object, then it failed. Let us see. Even today, I guess it will fail. Okay, here I am actually copying this line. It is working now. Yesterday it didn't work, but today it is working. I didn't do anything. I just yeah, it is working without any issues. Probably there could be some version issue or something. Now I'm pointing to 2.11.8 and pom.xml is pointing to 2.11. I don't know. I didn't expect that it will work. Only difference is just to test, I developed a program called wc.scala and ran this one a little bit earlier. Probably that might have fixed some of the dependencies in the background, and now it is working. I didn't expect that this will work. Now, as I was explaining yesterday, this is the best way to develop is first start writing your code snippets here. Okay, and when we actually right click on this project and when we launch it, it is just giving Scala interpreter. But we have Spark dependencies registered with that Scala interpreter. But the Spark configuration object and Spark context object are not created. Like in this case, if I say SC, we'll get the data type of it, because when we launch Spark Shell, it actually create this object called SC with the default configuration. Hence, we will be able to write the programs right away. But when we use Scala interpreter using our Eclipse with Scala ID plugin for our Spark projects, we have to create a Spark context first before writing any program. Okay, so we'll continue from here. So I will be using Scala interpreter itself so that you understand how to develop using Scala interpreter. But one caveat is here we cannot get the autofill because here tab means something else compared to command prompt. If I just say sc dot and hit tab in terminal, we are getting all the APIs available in SC. Here it's just typing tab character and moving out, so you will not get the autofill. Okay, that's the only one caveat. Unless you are very comfortable with APIs, you will struggle a little bit using this Scala interpreter in Eclipse. Okay, so here I'm maximizing this one. Okay, now if you recollect what I have done yesterday, so I have data directory, and in that we have word count.txt, right? So we try to read that, and then we try to parse each line, and in that process we are trying to determine whether to use flat map or map to get the word count. So the definition of word count is for each record which is a line in the file, we have to split by space and then for each unique word we want to get the number of occurrences within the file. That's the outcome of the desired outcome of this use case. Okay, so now we started with sc.text file. So let us create an RDD, text RDD equal to sc.text file, and I'm giving path here pwd. I'm copying this, and here we have to give the file name, otherwise it will fail. I explained the reason why about the reason yesterday. If you did not get why I'm giving the complete path, let me know. I will explain again. Okay, now the text RDD is created. So the RDD is nothing but a distributed collection, and each element in the collection is of type string, and this is dependent on the API which we are using to read the data. In this case, we are trying to read alphanumeric a file which contain alphanumeric characters. Hence, we use text file. Because we are using text file, the element in the RDD is of type string. Okay, then we have to split each and every we have to read. So when we apply transformations on top of it, such as flat map, etc., it will try to apply on one record at a time. Okay, so here I'm saying words equal to sc.text file, sorry, text RDD, and we have to use flat map because we want to split, and when we split it will return an array, and we want to flatten out that array. Okay, so either you can say underscore dot split space, or you can also do it in a anonymous function style where you give the names for the parameters like this, and you can take it from there. Okay, so here I have created words, and let us see the output of this. So when I say words dot, so now it is again RDD. So to print the contents of the RDD, we have to create a list out of it, and the way we can create a list of an RDD is by using collect function. So here I'm using collect function, and then for each println, and hit enter. You can see all the words in the file are displayed as individual records now. So the input is only 9 lines, whereas the output after flat map is actually 119 because we have 119 different words. Now on this, I am creating word tuples because downstream what we have to do, we have to count the number of occurrences of each word. One of the ways to do is we have to use a by key transformation. I will explain that by going through the documentation after a while. To use those transformations, we have to pass input in the form of tuples, and each word has to be assigned a numeric value 1, so that we can add those ones to get the count. Okay, so for that reason, after flat map, after flattening out each word, we have to create a tuple out of it, and the tuple to create the tuple, it's nothing but a transformation. Now words itself is an RDD, and each element can be considered as record, and we have to apply transformation on each of the record. And in this case, for each input record, we are getting output record which is transformed into tuple. Okay, for that reason we have to use map. So if we go back to the documentation, so here I am going to Spark programming guide. If you go to programming guide and if you click on transformations, as I have mentioned to you earlier, Row level transformations can be done either by using map, filter, or flat map. Filter is not applicable because we are not filtering, we are not writing any expression to filter out or to consider the record. And flat map is not applicable because we already flattened out, and each record we are getting as an input. So for each record as input, now we have to get a changed record as output or transformed record as output. So the only option is map. So we have to use map function here. Okay, in the map function, either you can say, so tuple can be created like this, and for each and every word in the element as part of the map function can be considered as underscore, which is nothing but a parameter, and we are trying to use 1 here. Okay, so for each word we are assigning, we are creating a tuple, which the output will be the word and a value 1 in the tuple, and I can hit enter. Now you can see the output of the map function is of type tuple, is of type RDD, and each element in the RDD is of type tuple. The first one is of type string, which is nothing but word, and the second one is not the numeric value 1, which we have assigned. Or you can also say, in the anonymous notation, you can actually give the parameter name, and the parameter has to be transformed into tuple. So now I'm giving the functionality, and if you recollect Scala construct, you don't need to specify return. Okay, so here it is same as writing this. Okay, return and then rec comma 1. Both, whether you have return statement or not, it is same, and hit enter. Okay, I think here we cannot specify return. If we have to specify return, I think it has to be in curly braces or something. So here we can just say rec of 1, automatically it will be returned. Okay. Okay, now, so this statement and this statement are same. I am reiterating both so that you don't confuse between underscore and the naming of the parameters. That's why I am reiterating and showcasing using both every time. Okay. Now, if I want to print, again, it's nothing but RDD. So RDD we cannot use for each and try to print directly. We have to convert it into a Scala collection. For that, we can use collect, which will return an array. I have explained yesterday. We can actually validate saying just collect and see the return type. Return type is nothing but array of tuples, which is string and int. And the first element is of type string and second element is of type int. Okay, now we can say word tuple dot collect dot for each print ln and hit enter. Now you can see for each word we are assigning a value 1 to it, and downstream we have to add these ones to get the number of occurrences. Now again we have to go back to the documentation, and we have come to a point where we can use the output which will be retrieved so far can be passed as an input to an aggregate function and start aggregating the results. So aggregations can be global, which means that at global level we want to add certain things, or aggregations can be at group level or by key level. So here for each unique word we want to get the number of occurrences. So the nature of the aggregation is by key aggregation. So we can actually directly go to the transformations which have by key in them. Okay, so there are only 4 by key transformations which are officially documented. There are some internal APIs which we don't need to worry, and the 4 by key aggregations are group by key, reduce by key, aggregate by key, sort by key. Okay, and as the name suggests, sort is not for adding or averaging or finding minimum, finding maximum. Sort is primarily to sort the data. So sort is sorted out. We don't need to use sort by key to get the aggregation done. So we'll come back to this list once again, because I need to spend a good amount of time, almost 1 to 2 hours, just on these 3 transformations, so that you understand the logic. For now, we will use reduce by key. Okay, we can use any of these 3: group by key, reduce by key, and aggregate by key. For aggregate, group by key is a lot more sophisticated and generic by key transformation. So it can be used for aggregations. It can be used for many other things, like within group if you want to rank, within group if you want to sort, or within group if you want to create a graph. For all those things, you can use group by key. Group by key is a lot more sophisticated and generic transformation. But one caveat with group by key is when it comes to aggregations, such as getting sum, getting average, min, max, etc., group by key does not use something called combiners. And because of that, the performance will be slower. And I will explain what is combiner and why group by key is slower when it comes to aggregations probably tomorrow or day after. But for now, for typical aggregations like sum, min, max, average, etc., we don't use group by key except in exceptional scenarios. And I will explain what are those exception scenarios later. So group by key is not an ideal candidate here. Sort by key, by name itself, we can figure out that it is not appropriate to function. So we are limited to reduce by key and aggregate by key. Here you can use both, and both give the same functionality. But reduce by key is the solution for this problem. I will talk about aggregate by key for a more complex use case, and we will see the actual differences at the time. For now, we will just use reduce by key, but you can use aggregate by key also. From development perspective, it is a little bit more complicated, but performance-wise, both are same. You can use either of them, but I'm using reduce by key because it is simpler and it works for this use case. Okay, so now I'm going here. So we have val, we have word tuple, and on that I want to apply the reduce by key. So word count, I'm creating variable RD called word count equal to word tuple, because after the RDD name which I have given when the map function is applied is word tuple, then reduce by key. Okay, reduce by key takes a tuple as parameter. Okay, and that tuple, first parameter is the accumulator or global variable like total. If you write the typical while loop, and if you try to get the count, you will create a counter or some total variable above while, and you will keep on adding the elements to that, and you will be displaying it later, right? So here, the first parameter have that significance. Internally, the code will be compiled into like that only. So there will be, if you actually reverse engineer the class code or bytecode which will be generated by the Scala compiler, it will actually use loop only, while loop only, similar to while loop. And there will be a global variable with name total, and then there will be a local variable which will be creating while iterating through a loop, and we can give it as value here. And then we just have to add this value into total. Okay, so this total plus value will internally convert it into like this, total plus equal to value. Okay, that will be taken care internally. We don't need to worry about it. So this is the Scala construct, and this Scala code will be compiled into bytecode similar to total plus equal to value. And then this entire reduce by key functionality will be converted into a while loop, where total will be a global variable, and this total will be updated after each iteration, and then at the end the total will be returned. So here is also the same case. And also another special feature of reduce by key is, for each unique key, So in this case, if you go here, in is one unique key, place is another unique key, off is another unique key, and this iteration will be done. Okay, I will explain again once I showcase this to you, how it will look like. Okay, so hit enter. Now it has created another RDD. Again, the type of element of that RDD, which is nothing but a collection, is tuple, and the first element is nothing but string, which stores the actual words, and the int will be now the number of occurrences after this reduce by key functionality. Okay, now I can say word count dot, again word count is an RDD, it's not an array, so we have to use collect if you want to print everything out of it, which will convert this RDD into an array, and then we can say for each println. If you don't want to display everything on a larger data set, you can also say take and pass 10 or 20, whatever number you want to preview, and take and collect are nothing but actions, which I have covered yesterday, and hit enter. And now you can see 10 unique keys, parameters, actually parameters comma occurred twice, the occurred once, is occurred once, and this getter in bracket occurred once, etc. Okay, so this is how we have written the word count program depending upon our use case. So we have applied flat map. First we have converted into RDD, then applied flat map, and in the flat map we have applied the split logic, and then flattened it out using flat map, and then we have applied map to create tuples for each word, and then we have used reduce by key, which is again a transformation, a by key transformation, to aggregate the results. And now let us write the program in actual wc.scala. So let me show it from the scratch. I'm deleting this for now, and I will then show from the scratch how to develop the program. So now we can actually stop this because the testing is done. I have written base code and testing is done. Okay, so here new Scala object, and let me name it as WC. Okay, I just have to. Okay, I know the problem. It is created in the default package. Delete. Okay, and here new Scala object WC. Okay, now the object specification is created. We have to start with the devs main, so that this can be invoked directly. The program, the main function will, this object can be invoked directly. Here it takes one parameter, which is named as args, and then it is of type array. Again, you have to recollect your Scala syntax. Okay, and then you can say you can start curly braces. There are multiple ways to start the definition of your method. Either you can directly say here, if you do not specify the return, it will automatically be considered as unit. Okay, always Scala will return something. And if you have to specify the return type, after the return type you have to say equal. Okay, if you don't say return type, you don't need to specify equal. You can say it like this. If you have to specify non-default return type, default is unit. For any return type, you have to specify equal after the return type. So both are same. Whatever I have earlier and this one are same. Okay. Now to start the Spark project and to submit it as a Spark job, you have to create the Spark context. Spark context is the one which will hold the context of the web service when the job is submitted. and it will create a new web service if it is not existing, and it will create the Spark context object, and you can do whatever you need to do with that Spark context object. So to create the Spark context object, we need Spark configuration also. You can use default configuration, but if you want to override certain things like application name, your execution master, etc., what you have to do is you have to import arg.apache.spark.sparkconf and then arg.apache.spark.sparkcontext. So these both have to be imported. Once you import these two, first you have to means if you want to override certain configuration parameters, you can use you have to create the Spark configuration object. So here I am creating Spark configuration object. Again, remember that data type is not mandatory while creating Scala variables. Here, even though it's a Spark application, we are using Scala as programming language, but you have to specify whether it is immutable or mutable. Okay, so when I say val, it is immutable. Always we have to prefer immutable variables unless you want to modify something as part of your program. Hence, I am using immutable val here, and then I am creating, I am giving the name of the variable as const, and I want to create a Spark configuration object. Hence, I can say new Spark const, and it has several methods. It has set, which is the default set method. So if you want to override any parameter, you can use actually set and override any parameter at runtime. On top of the typical set, the most generic set method, there are some special methods such as set master, set app name, etc. So internally, they are also configuration parameters only. Okay, but instead of remembering what the configuration parameters for application name and master, we can actually use these helper class, additional helper set methods. To set app name, you can use set app name and give the name. Let us name it as word count. And then set master. Whether if you want to run in local mode, the master has to be specified as local. Here we are running local to our PC, and we don't have a Spark cluster on our PC. Hence, we can only use local here. We cannot use any other. Okay, so I am using local here. And then once the Spark configuration object is created, using that we can create Spark context. And here I am giving the Spark context object name as sc, new Spark context, and we have to pass the configuration. Whatever parameters overridden here, they will be updated as part of the configuration while creating the Spark context when we submit the job. Okay, so this is not required, and if you don't create the Spark configuration object, you can delete this, and it will use the default configuration, whatever is specified in the configuration files. Or if you in our local mode, we will not have any configuration files. So whatever Spark defaults at their binaries level, it will be inherited if you don't pass the configuration object here. Okay, and then once the Spark context is created, using that we can actually apply APIs such as text file, etc. to read, which I have demonstrated already. So here first I am saying text as the very RDD name, and I am saying text file, and I have to give the path, and path we will fetch from here. And the file name is wordcount.txt. Okay, and now after that, I have to apply the flat map, etc. So either we can actually create multiple variables, or we can directly say val word count, and use all the APIs in one shot. In this case, I will be applying all in one shot. So text dot. Okay, after dot, if you enter, if you hit enter, and if you go to the next line, it will consider as a continuation. So now I can say flat map underscore dot split space dot map. Here the output, I want to get a tuple of each word and one dot reduce by key, and we can say this one. Earlier I have shown you creating the tuple. Now I am showing how to use underscores instead of using the names. Okay. Now I formatted. Now word count have the output means the count of each word. Means once we invoke action and when we run the program, automatically it will get the count for you. Okay. So now I can say. So far I have just used for each and used println, but when we actually develop the program, we have to write it to some directory. So here I'm saying word count dot save as text file. Save as text file is an API on top of RDD. If you want to save RDD into a file, okay, it's the counterpart for text file to read. Save as text file is to write, text file is to read, and text file is on Spark context because we have to read from the file system, and the API is provided under Spark context. Now we are trying to write RDD to file system. Hence, the save as functions are provided as part of as APIs for RDD. Word count is RDD now, and save as text file is function within that. And here we can give the path. So the path is this one, and then I am just giving the directory name, and this directory should not exist by default. That's the typical behavior. So I don't have word count directory here, so I can give it and save it, and now I can say run as. There are no parameters that needs to be configured, hence we don't need to get into run configurations. We can directly say Scala application, and now it is actually running in the local mode, and the execution is done. Now you can actually go here, ls-ltr, and a word count directory is created. You can go there, and then you can see the part directory, part file, which have some text, and then a marker file called underscore success, which means that the program is successfully executed. Okay, this is the default behavior of the HDFS. Whenever you try to write into a file system, if it is successful, it will have this underscore success file in that. Now if we want to preview the data, we can say view on top of it, and you can see that so RDD is of type tuple, and we just wrote the tuple into the file system. If you don't want to write like this, instead if you want to actually write in the form of word and then space and then count, you can say you have to after reduce by key, you have to apply map function. Okay, and then for each record, in this case record is a tuple. How to read the tuple? We have to say rec._1 and rec._2. So now we are actually converting a tuple into simple text, where we will extract first element of the tuple, then concatenate a tab character or space or some other delimiter, and then concatenate with the second element of the tuple. Hence we have to say rec._1 plus tab plus rec._2, and then we can say dot save as text file. Okay, so now let me actually add it to the new line character so that it is readable. Okay, now if I say if I try to run it directly, it will fail because the word count directory is already there. See, it failed. and it says file already exists exception. Okay, so what I can do, I can delete this directory. There is nothing, there is no word count now, directory with name word count. So I can say run as Scala application. And now it is successfully done without error. And now I can go to word count, lsltr. Now I can say fail, and then you can see word tab 1. Okay, so without transformation, whatever is the type, whatever is the type of the element in the RDD, it will apply the toString function of that, and then it will just print as tuple in, or it will write as tuple into the file. Okay, now if you want to change the format of the way the data has to be written, after reduce by key, you have to apply the map function like this. Okay, so this is how you have to write your Scala based Spark applications using Scala as programming language. Now there are certain best practices you need to follow. You should never hard code the which mode it should run, and also you should not hard code the path of your files which needs to be processed. Okay, that is not a good practice at all. If you hard code like this, when before pushing into production, you have to refactor the code and then you have to push into production, which means it's a change in code, and it is not a good practice at all. Any project, you have to externalize these things, or they have to be passed as arguments. Okay, so there is a statement by Ramesh. Let me get into that. Yeah, one caveat is when testing local in Windows, there will be an issue because of winutils.exe, and search in Stack Overflow, and you will get a solution for it. Once you set up winutils.exe, then only your Windows systems can use the HDFS file system. HDFS APIs to read and write the files. Otherwise, your Eclipse on Windows will not be able to read and write files using HDFS APIs. Okay, so you just download it and follow the instructions and take care of it. And also the path has to be specified as Windows standard, C:\/ backslash rather than forward slash, and then give the path from the C:\/ or D:\/ whatever it is. So now, as I have mentioned to you earlier, you should never hard code these things. Okay, and also if you see this the typical behavior, if the directory already exists, when we use save as text file, it complains that file or directory already exists and the program will fail. So these things has to be handled gracefully using best programming practices. Okay, one way is you can externalize this as parameters or arguments. So you should understand the difference between argument and parameter. Argument is the one which will be passed at the command line. Parameter is the one where you can actually specify these things in a parameter file, and you have to read that parameter file when you want to run the program as part of your logic, and use the values from the parameters at runtime to actually do whatever it is supposed to do. So I will show that tomorrow how to externalize and all. For now, I will just convert these things to arguments. Tomorrow we will see how to externalize the parameters, and then we will build the jar file, and we will ship the jar file to the cluster, and we will run it on the cluster. Okay, to externalize the parameters, it's very simple. Here, main function takes the arguments. So if you want to use this, if you want to pass this as first argument, you can say args of 0 here, and for this, okay, here you have to say like this. The subscript to read the elements in a collection in Scala, we cannot use square brackets. We have to use circular brackets. That's why it was showing error earlier. Now it is gone because we have used the appropriate syntax. and then I want to pass it as second parameter. And for now, we will hard code this. Tomorrow, we will externalize and see how we can actually add it to the application.properties, and we will make few changes that are required as while integrating the application.properties or typesafe config package to externalize the important parameters or important properties. Okay, now I can, instead of run as Scala application, we have to go to run configurations, and in this you need to make sure that it has chosen the appropriate package and appropriate class. The project name is Scala demo, so we are in the right project, and the main class is wordcount.wc. So we are in the right location. You have to make sure to review these things and confirm that you are pointing to the right main class, and then choose arguments. Here you have to give the input path, and the input path is and I'm deleting this directory also. Okay, so the input path is this one, password count.txt, and the output path, the second parameter, is a directory, just a directory which is not existent in the parent directory path which is specified in the output. Okay, I hope it is visible. If you have any issues understanding it, let me know, I will explain. So click on apply and then click on run. The program will run automatically for you, and then you can go here and make sure you have the directory, and then cat content. So whatever functionality is implemented, we got the results. Okay, so that is how you have to write end-to-end program. So as part of yesterday's class and today's class, what we have seen, how to first test our code snippets using Scala interpreter or Spark shell, Scala interpreter on IDE and Spark shell from the command line. And also I have explained how to set up Spark shell at a very higher level. And then yesterday and today we have seen how to apply row level transformations. We have demonstrated using map and flat map. We haven't covered filter yet as part of the demo. We will see that when we get a appropriate use case. And then we, at a higher level, we understood there are 4 by key transformations, and for aggregations we should not use sort by key. It is self-explanatory, you don't need to think much about it. And then there are 3 other transformations such as group by key, reduce by key, and aggregate by key. I have explained that all the 3 can be used, but for aggregations, from performance perspective, group by key is not the ideal candidate in most of the cases. However, there are exceptions for it. And then we are limited to reduce by key and aggregate by key for our use case. For now, I just demonstrated using reduce by key. We will see the differences and all those things when we get into more complicated example. And also we have seen how to write an end-to-end program, how to create the configuration object, how to create the Spark context object, use these APIs, read data from file system and write into file system. Okay, so those things are covered at a higher level in yesterday's session and today's session. We will continue the same example of word count, and we will see how to use typesafe config to externalize the parameters. And then we will get into a more real-world type of examples using New York Stock Exchange data as well as retail DB, and we will start exploring further. Okay, and also make sure you are comfortable with the syntax. As you are targeting for the certification exam, make sure you are comfortable with the Scala syntax. You don't need to write a very complex Scala programs, but you should at least understand what is this underscore, how to use anonymized functions like this, or you can also use underscore notation. The same program you can also say, without creating the variable, you can say this Okay. Okay, it is not working like that. So this time it 1 minute. Let me think about it. It should work. Why it is not working? There is only one parameter. What is the error it is giving? Missing parameter type of expanded function. Okay. Okay, let me see. Okay, so I think there are certain limitations here. It is getting to that exceptions, and it is throwing compiler errors. Probably this might be a little bit complicated for it. Hence, it might be a good idea just to use the variable name. So underscore has certain limitations. You will not get the complete flexibility of using the names like this. Okay. So that being said, so that's it. If you have any questions, I will spend a couple of minutes and I will clarify. There is one question already. If multiple executors are running, multiple part files will be generated. That is correct. If we have multiple executors, there will be multiple part files. And we will see that when we actually run in the cluster tomorrow. We will be running this word count program on our 30 GB data set. Probably I will limit to one file, which is 1 GB, and then we will see how many part files will be created and all those things in the cluster. Any other question? Okay, then we will catch up. Okay, there is a question from Ramesh. If we remove rec and directly use, yeah, it didn't work. I tried that, but it didn't work for whatever reason. Okay, any other question? It is getting into compiler errors. Anyway, thank you very much. We'll catch up in a couple of minutes for the scoop portion of it. If you want a couple of minutes break, you can take. Meanwhile, I will wrap up the YouTube live session, and I will launch the second session in YouTube live, and we will restart. So till then, I will be muting, and I'll stop sharing, and I will mute, and then I'll come back. So those who are on YouTube live, thank you for attending today's session. We will continue to start exploring Scala and Spark in detail. Again, to get you the context, this is primarily for a corporate training, and these videos are backup for them. But I'm sharing information with everyone. If you follow these videos, you will be able to learn. You will be able to learn. And if you have any questions, you can get the support by going to discuss.itversity.com. There are army of volunteers who are answering to the questions, and there is a lot of interest in answering Spark-based questions. And you can start leveraging that platform in case of any questions or issues. And also, if you like this video, please click on like. And if you want to provide the feedback, you can use comment section of the video. If you want to share with your friends, please use this and share on Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. And also, if you need an environment where you want to practice all these exercises, I have something called labs.itversity.com. You can sign up. Once you sign up, you will be able to see the plans. These are the plans: 14.95 for 31 days, 34.95 for 93 days, and 54.95 for 185 days. You can enroll for these things. Follow my content on my other platforms such as YouTube channel, the courses in YouTube live sessions, my website such as itversity.com, etc. And then you will be able to build the skills to become successful in big data technologies. Okay, so that being said, once again, thank you very much. Don't forget to like and share so that it reaches a lot more people. And also, the more subscribers I get to the lab, I will try to come up with more and more components in the lab by reinvesting 20 to 30% of the revenue. I would like to provide a complete ecosystem as part of the labs. That being said, thank you very much. Bye.